Live. Welcome, Mystery and Thriller fans. I'm your on-air host and author, Sara DiVello, and I am so excited to welcome back tonight best-selling author Wendy Walker, who's here to give us the inside scoop on her brand new book out next week, Blade. Wendy, welcome back to Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Tell us about this book.
Thank you. It's so fun to be here. So I actually have a confession to make.
Ooh, tell us.
So many years ago, I was a competitive figure skater. And in all these years that I've been writing, I have not written a story that takes place in that world. So this is the first time I have really written something that's so close to home and to my childhood. So yeah, little terrifying.
Oh my God, Wendy, I am so freaking excited. I have so many questions. Oh my God, I already see the questions. They're spiraling. Welcome, everybody. But I am so excited, Wendy, because I am not a sporty girl. The only thing I watch in the Winter Olympics is women's figure skating and pairs.
Yes,
figure
it's
skating.
the best.
Yes. It's the best. And the only thing I watch in the Summer Olympics is women's gymnastics. And I've always wondered about those kids and how they get to the Olympic stage. And when I've heard that there are these kids that go and live with their coaches in these crazy, remote, ultra competitive places. And I've always wondered, what would that be like? And here's what it's like, Wendy Walker. Mixed with some murder and mayhem, of course. So I am so excited to talk about this book. I have so many questions. I know so everybody else has so many questions. So first, I just want to welcome everyone because we are streaming live to 8 different destinations across Facebook and YouTube. So hey, mystery and thriller loving friends, no matter where you're watching from, you're in the right place. It is the right time. It is Mystery Monday, and because Mondays can be murder, we're going to make it a little less painful and get your week off to a killer start. So if you've been here before, you know the drill. And if you're new, here's the drill. Every Monday, I give you my handpicked featured authors and you get to ask them anything. So ask Wendy about her ice skating, her competitive figure skating, her writing process. We had some questions submitted in advance. We're going to get to those as well, but let's jump right in. Randy is joining us from YouTube. He says, hi, Sara. Hi, Randy. So good to see you pop up as always. Sharon also joining us from YouTube saying howdy. Hey, Sharon, good to see you. Robin from Facebook. Hello, all from sunny Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Welcome, Robin. Chris from YouTube, a hello from a very snowy Cincinnati, Ohio. I know, I don't want to say that it's Wendy Walker's fault that we had a giant snowstorm, but I think it is probably Wendy Walker's fault.
Yeah, I know. Well, the book takes place during a snowstorm, so
that's what I'm saying. Wendy manifested this for us. Renee says, hi, Sara and Wendy from Southeast Florida. She says, Wendy, I'm really looking forward to reading Blade. And she wants to know, where do you live now?
I live in Connecticut. So it's far from Colorado. And actually, I've lived here for most of my life. So I was living here when I was 13 and went to train at a small training facility in Colorado. And there were skaters from all around the world. Our coach had trained, many incredible international skaters and Olympians. So it was far from home. And but I'm back here now, many years later.
Wendy, like I said, I am obsessed with women's figure skating. I've never even put my feet in ice skates. I know nothing about it, but I love to watch
we're gonna have to go. I'm gonna drag you out there.
Oh my God, I'm so scared of falling and breaking a bone, or cracking my head. But I admire it so much, and I've always wondered, how do these kids, and when we see them whizzing around the ice with the greatest of ease, landing, triple salchows and lutzes and doing these incredible jumps, I think to myself, how are they so young and able to do this? And I've always wondered what it's like to live in one of those facilities. Yeah. I mean, it sounds scary. And so when I saw that, I've known you for, I don't know how many years. I've interviewed you for I don't know how many books. I had no idea about this secret background of yours as a competitive figure skater, let alone that you had gone to live in one of these facilities. So like our protagonist, Anna, who goes when she's at the tender age of 13 and is one of the, quote, orphans, which are the kids that live there full time, not just the local kids who come and train daily, with the 3 other orphans who become her family away from family. And it is a perilous world. Tell us why you wanted to write about that now.
So it was actually my agent who suggested that I draw from my experiences to create a world where a thriller could live. And it was so hard to figure out how to draw from my personal experience with having it be fiction. I wanted to write a fictional thriller because nobody died when I was skating, and so the events that happen in the book are fictional. But I wanted to be able to draw what I knew and what I took from that world, which were sort of the emotions, what it felt like to be at a place like that, what it felt like to be a competitor, what it felt like to be on the ice. And so it was the hardest book I've ever written, I will say, by far, because I was so close to it. But I hopefully created this world that anybody can go into. If you know nothing about skating, without being overloaded with facts, because it is a thriller and the plot has to move. So I created 2 time frames where you could be in the forward story with Anna now. She's left skating behind. She's a lawyer. She has many dark secrets that she left behind at the Palace, which is the fictional facility in Colorado. And she goes back to help a 15-year-old skater who's been accused of murdering her coach. And so we get to be in this present story where Anna's trying to figure out what happened in the middle of the snowstorm. And then we go back in time where the pacing slows down a little bit to get you into the story of Anna when she was 13. So so it has the 2 time frames, and that allowed it to feel very organized for me, where I could go back and sort of, talk about what it was like to be in that facility, like day by day, year by year. So that time frame spans these 3 years that she was there. And then the forward story could just be all thriller, which is, what I'm trained to do as a writer, is just write the plot and keep the pace moving. So it finally worked, but it was hard. It was the hardest book I've written. And this is my 10th thriller and my 12th published novel. So yeah.
Because it's not just dual POVs, not just dual timelines, it's also dual POVs. And we have young 13-year-old Anna, 13-year-old, 14-year-old, starting Anna, but then Anna, competitive child, orphaned ice skater Anna. But then we have current day, strong, empowered, I've moved on, I don't come back here, lawyer Anna. So it was also not just different timelines, but different versions of her. I mean, there's so much to get into. I have so many questions, but I want to get into the audience questions. Ronnie's joining us from very cold Rochester on YouTube. Hi, Ronnie. Robin joining us from Facebook, saying, I'm a lifetime watcher of Olympic figure skating, women's figure skating, memories of watching the repetitive, compulsory figure eight on my grandparents' black and white TV. Oh, I love that. John Hebert joining us from Northeast Ohio. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. So this is a good question without any spoilers. One of the things that you deal with is the vulnerability of Anna, and that she, at the age of 13, is hanging out with kids who are much older than her. 16-year-old girls are really different than 13-year-old girls, but there's also this male assistant coach, which is, a nod toward potential predatory behavior, as well as an incredibly competitive, cutthroat female coach. Your thoughts on this, Renee? Renee is asking.
Oh, we're asking me. So I'm trying to think of a way to answer it without having spoilers. That's not really the focus of the book. So the book is a female coach she is abusive, she's narcissistic, and she definitely is emotionally and mentally abusive to the girls. She demands complete, sort of worship from them. And obedience. She gives, gives and takes her affection and her approval all the time. And she tries to become their sole source of attachment and self-esteem, so that there's nowhere else for them to turn. So the orphans, who are these girls living there on their own in the dormitory year round, they're not just sort of there for a couple of months or a season, and they didn't move there with a parent. They're there on their own. They're really vulnerable to falling under her spell. So it's not a story. These are teenage girls. Things go wrong. So I'm not going to say that there's no predatory behavior by other people in the book. But with the coach, that's not the thrust of the story at all.
And I think Renee might be also addressing that with the recent scandal in the female gymnastics world, which of course we all saw. Did you witness predatory behavior in your real life, Wendy?
I actually did not from the coaches, but I did not. I had, my coach was a very straight arrow. He had coached Dorothy Hamill and Peggy Fleming, and he was, just very matter of fact. For me, what that meant was that he was also not a source of great sort of comfort. He wasn't going to pull me aside and say, hey, how are things going at school? And, how's puberty coming along? Stuff like that you would ask a 13-year-old girl. So that piece was missing for me in this authority figure. He was very stoic. We were actually all very afraid of having, we weren't afraid of him, but nobody wanted the first lesson of the day, put it that way. It would be 5:30 in the morning, lacing up our skates in the locker room, ready to go out and do those compulsory figures. And we would hear the door open and he's walking down, we'd hear him walking down the stairs, and everybody would just keep their head down, doing their little figure eights and oh, maybe he won't see me if I don't look up. And we're hoping he would skate by you and go have a lesson with another skater, because that first morning lesson, oh my gosh. But yeah, he's not in the book. I'll just say that.
Oh my God. I tapped out at 5:30 a.m. losing at my skates. I'm like, not today, Satan, not today. Sharon wants to know, Wendy, do you still skate?
So this book has been so cathartic, because I did not skate for about 15 years until I started writing the book. I don't know why exactly, except that it wasn't part of my life. I raised 3 sons. I taught them all to skate. None of them really were that interested in pursuing it. So I didn't really have the opportunity. I don't have friends who are like, hey, let's go skating this weekend. It wasn't in my path. And I was busy, really busy, raising these kids and being a part of their lives, and also working and, living. So, and I didn't seek it out either, which is interesting, I guess. But when I started to write it, I knew I needed to be able to describe what was joyful about it. And, and I had really compartmentalized those last 3 years, which really turned out to be pretty traumatic for me. And I had sort of, when I left skating and just went on to other endeavors, I sort of put it in this little box labeled trauma, do not open, without supervision of a trained therapist. So when I had to open it and I started writing this book, and there's so much darkness in the book, but I needed to show the other side of skating, which is why these girls are there to begin with and why I was there. And so I laced up my skates after 15 years, and it was terrifying because I stepped on the ice, and every time before that I had done this, I would just start going, and I couldn't exactly do jumps and spins. Sometimes I did actually get some of them back, but I would start skating and doing crossovers and frontboard, just skating like a figure skater. And this time I went out and I started to move, and my legs, I felt like there was something glue on my blades. I couldn't skate. And it took about a minute or two for my brain to connect with my body. And then I was able to sort of skate with the confidence that I had once had. But it was really interesting that amount of time, the mind, the muscle memory, the mind body connection was hiding. Yeah.
Wow. Because I was actually wondering, Robin is saying, wow, no skating for 15 years. I do understand it not being your path. Things come back to us when it's the right time. I was wondering, is it like riding a bicycle? Because I actually just got on a bicycle for the first time in 20 years. And I was like, is it true what they say that you never forget, or am I going to fall over and, get injured?
Did you? Did you fall over?
No, I was wobbly, but then it came back to me, but
Yeah.
I didn't fall. You do never forget. So is it the same with skates? You never forget?
Well, I mean, that's how it had always been for me. But this time it took a while for me to get it back.
But you didn't
And
like fall. Or you
I
did fall.
almost fell. I didn't fall. I was with my boyfriend who was a former hockey skater, and he was like,
Oh my God.
I'm like, okay, film me. You have to film my first steps back on the ice. And he's filming it. And I looked up, I'm like, oh, something's wrong. Something's wrong. Like I really thought there was something wrong with my blades or with the ice. And it wasn't. It was just that connection was lost. And I felt it slowly trickle back as I started moving. And I was like, okay, just keep moving, just, and it did, it came back. And then I was stroking around the ice and we were skating and I was like, okay, it's coming back. It's coming back. But it was scary a little bit because I had always assumed it would always be there because it always had been. So
well,
yeah, use it or lose it, I guess, with some things in life,
Carol, welcome to the conversation, saying, hi, Wendy. I can't wait to read your book. Oh, Carol, thank you so much. And what a perfect note to comment on, because you guys, the book is out next week and Wendy is coming on today to give us the exclusive inside sneak peek and take all of your most pressing questions. So you can order from our favorite woman-owned independent bookstore. That is, of course, Murder by the Book. And the good folks at Murder by the Book will mail it out to you next week. So the day that the book drops. So whether you're watching with us on Facebook or YouTube, you can grab your copy of Blade right here. And I'm going to pop it up for all of us and get your mitts on this book, which I am devouring. You can see my Q-tip bookmark. I have 500 bookmarks, but somehow can never find any of them. So I'm using this Q-tip. I am right here about 2/3 of the way through, and I'm really enjoying this book. So here is your link to click and pre-order your copy of Blade and let us know what you think of it. Oh my gosh, we have so many questions and we're going to try to get to all of them. Wendy, this is a juicy conversation. Everybody's so curious and I'm so curious. Okay. Anissa Joy, welcome to the conversation. My favorite librarian. She wants to know, with so many books coming out every week, what are your best ingredients of your books that pull readers in to buy them? So, okay, 12 books in, you said, Wendy Walker. Tell us what you know about the secret recipe. Great question.
Yeah, I mean, I think every writer has their own voice and their own style. And I think what I try to bring to every book is a really strong emotional pull. So there are lots of plot twists and there are a lot of mechanics involved in the plot. And that for me is really, really important. But I think the part of my recipe is always to have a really powerful emotional story. So even, if the characters aren't all likable, I try to make many of them understandable and relatable so that you are rooting for them or feeling for them. I love to have an ending where, when I'm reading it, it brings a tear to my eye, even if I've been editing it 100 times, but just always going back. And I'm like, if it sort of sits that way with me, then hopefully it will sit that way with readers. So for me, that's it, to have a twisty book, but to really try to bring a powerful emotional punch to it as well.
Oh, I love that. Renee wants to know, do you ever miss skating?
When I went back, I didn't miss it until I went back out and sort of rediscovered the joy of being on the ice. And there's something so unique about it because you are you are able to defy gravity with your body. So you're able to hold an edge. And if you have enough speed and you have that edge, I mean, you watch the skaters who can be, leaning over almost 45 degrees or more, doing a layback spin, just that feel that of the sort of the force of your blade and the ice, and how fast you're going, that you can do these shapes with your body that you can't really do and under other circumstances. So, yeah, I mean, I do miss that. I really do. And now, I mean, I've gotten back on the ice and I can skate around, but I'm like, I can do a little scratch spin and was like, oh, dizzy because my body's not used to it. So, yeah, I do. I miss it.
Thank you for that question. Carol saying, I have read all of your other books and I love your work. Oh, yay, Carol, that makes me so happy.
Much. Oh my gosh, that means so much. Thank you.
Yay. Carrie is, oh, hey, Carrie. So good to have you here from YouTube. Carrie wants to know, he says, I loved Emma in the Night and Don't Look for Me, and I can't wait for Blade. I'm currently reading What Remains, and I want to know if you drew inspiration from the Jamie Lee Curtis movie Blue Steel.
Oh, you know what? I've never seen Blue Steel. So now I'm going to have to watch it. That What Remains actually came to me after there was a shooting in Colorado, actually in Boulder, many years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's in a supermarket. And I heard these interviews from people who were coming out of the store. And for whatever reason, the reporters, those were the first people that they were able to talk to before the police or any authorities. So they were getting the accounts from inside the store from people who had been in there and had managed to escape and run out unharmed. And I remember thinking, because, I was in the midst of writing, I can't remember which one, but I'm always, in the sort of some psychological, melodrama of my books. And I remember thinking, like, what happens to those people? Because they're suffering a trauma, but it then is invisible. And everyone will say to them, like, oh my gosh, you must like see life so much brighter now. It must all seem so wonderful because you survived. And so they're expected to be like maybe happy and joyful and going out and embracing life, but they suffered a trauma just from being inside the store and from coming that close to death and maybe hearing the screams and knowing people died. And so I wanted to explore that trauma with a little more depth, sort of the invisible trauma, no physical injury, nobody they knew died, just an experience that happened that they then have to process, and what that is like.
Yeah. And actually, on that note, Wendy, I want to acknowledge that there is some very traumatic things happening right now in our country, in Minnesota, because it feels weird not to acknowledge that we are seeing people affected with, I saw a trauma expert last night say, what will affect generations of people, whether or not you have personally witnessed a murder or, God forbid, 1,000 times lost someone. The things that we're seeing every day are creating that same trauma. And I think it would feel irresponsible not to acknowledge that. So I just want to acknowledge.
Yeah, it is. I mean, this is it changes how you see the world. And it's an overwhelming topic to even, to dive into in this forum, but it is, it's significant and substantial. And that was sort of the motivation behind What Remains.
Thank you for writing about that and addressing that. Readers Gotta Read. Good to see you as always. She wants to know, how did you find, okay, we're going back to the timelines that you referenced earlier. How did you find ways to show these different timelines, Wendy? Did you use technology, new ice skating protocol? Very curious. Yeah. So are you using spreadsheets? Are you using Scrivener? How are you keeping track of Anna then, Anna now? And we don't, of course, no spoilers, but things that happened then impacting things that are happening now. How did you graph that?
I have always a running word document that is, I call it disclosures. And it just keeps track of the things that have to happen for the plot to work and
Ooh.
where they're going to be disclosed. So one of the things I like to do is not repeat information. So if something's happening in the backstory and you get to see it in real time with Anna when she's younger, then in the forward story, I try to pick up where that chapter left off. And I feel like that's a really fun way to keep the reader engaged with the plot and not lose track of all the facts, and not repeat them. And so, if Anna's in the past is in a competition and something happens, then the next chapter with Anna, I'll find a way for her to, to be thinking about that, or for it to be relevant. So I try to make everything that happened in the past relevant to the case that she's trying to solve in the present. So it becomes a little bit complicated, and it takes a lot of like going through and, reading it again. Like, okay, what happens in this chapter? What happens in that chapter? How can I move things around? I do a lot of moving chapters, moving sections around to make that, kind of a really fun experience. And then I also added in these short little interview chapters. So yes, because there's information in that I realized I didn't want to disclose in either point of view. So I thought, I want readers to know this stuff. How can I let them know this when Anna doesn't know it herself? So kind of a behind the scenes look that the reader gets to have through these interviews that take place a little bit in the future. So they're like 1 or 2 pages long, and you get to hear the voices of of all the characters in the book as they're being interviewed about the past and about the murder that is the subject of the, of the forward story. So hopefully that's fun. And it's really fun for the audio because we cast different characters for all of those parts. So if you like audiobooks, you get to actually hear all of those characters come to life in those little chapters.
Ooh, I love that. Carol saying, I remember you also know my friend Kristen, who is also a professional skater. Oh, how cool.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. We had a conversation about that. Yes. It's a small world. It's a really small world.
Renee is saying, first, this book must have been extremely emotional for you to write. And she wants to know, did you feel like you had to see a therapist after you left competitive skating? I would.
Well, fortunately, yeah. After I left, yes. So I would say
you were still a kid.
Right, yeah, but not right away. I just poured all of my drive and ambition into my new pursuits, which had to do with finishing high school, getting into a top college if I could. And then I had my sights set on Wall Street. I ended up working at Goldman Sachs. And then I, went to law school. And I would say I did most of the therapy after I had my own children. And I just felt this unrest inside me that still, it had not been quelled by all of these other things I'd been doing. And I guess it was in my early 30s. And so that's when I buckled down and started to understand how those, the things from my past were informing the way my brain works, the way it processes information, the way it advises me about things. And this is what's so fascinating about psychology, is that all our wiring is all done when we're children up to about age 24, 25, right? So we then have these like wires in there because our brain is trying to help us live. And if all this stuff happened during those years, then there's an assumption that that's what life is. That's the world that we're living in, and it's going to keep happening. So I had a really a sort of finely tuned like fight or flight response, and things could trigger it. And I think I'm, sort of always in a quiet state of anxiety, waiting for things to happen.
That is so relatable, Wendy. I am in a constant.
Anybody else out there have that? Right?
Constant. Who can relate?
Yeah.
Who can relate?
And that's, and it's, was I born that way? Probably a little bit, but no doubt, a lot of things in my childhood, including skating, led me to have that kind of wiring. And it takes a lot. You can't really undo it. You can just sort of talk it down. So yeah, and I'm very thankful for it. And that actually, I think, is my love of psychology and writing psychological thrillers comes from understanding my own past, and then also working with children as a lawyer in the last part of my legal career. So
I love that, Wendy. And it's just so interesting because, from where I stand, we've got Anna, competitive figure skating kid who goes to live with her coach in one of these facilities to train her for the Olympics. She then she chooses to leave that, focus on college, focus on law school, where she then becomes a lawyer who works with kids. Wendy Walker, would you say that out of all 12 books, this character is most like yourself?
I mean, factually, I guess she is. There are a lot of parts of her that a lot of the beliefs that she has are things that I believe about childhood trauma, how it informs the future. I've lived a little bit of a different life than what Anna has. I got married at 28, I have 3 children, and had a lot of therapy to unpack those years. But no, she is, there is a piece of me in every single book. And it's really hard to say which one is more or less. But I feel like there are threads of me in all of my books.
Oh, I love that. You guys, we are out of time. Time flies when you're having this much fun, but I am dropping all of the incredible reviews that this book has gotten in the comments so that you can enjoy them and peruse them in your own time. So Wendy earned a starred review from Booklist, who raves that Walker builds the suspense artfully and the reader will be drawn in. The author pivots and lutzes her way through a world she once knew well. I love that. I also, to Readers Gotta Read's question about multiple timelines, then and now. I wanted to pull this one out from Publishers Weekly, which says that Walter nimbly toggles back and forth in time. So clearly the Word document called Disclosures is working well for Wendy Walker. And then we have some other incredible reviews from Ashley Elston, Liv Constantine, Alifair Burke. I am putting them many, many, many more. I'm putting them, all here in the chat for May Cobb, Geneva Rose, Kate White. The list goes on and on and on. But I did want to you have time to read them. And again, I want to drop the link to pre-order from our favorite woman-owned independent bookstore that is, of course, Murder by the Book. So whether you're watching with us on Facebook or on YouTube, here is that link to pre-order, and the good folks at the bookstore will send it out to you as soon as the book drops next week. Wendy, thank you for coming on to take all of our most cutting questions. I'm trying to think of a blade thing, and it's not working.
Everybody's trying to do that.
It's so fun. It's so fun. You guys, thank you for spending your Mystery Monday with me. I hope your week is off to a killer start. May the days and the pages fly by, and I will be back with you next week with a brand new book. Stay tuned, stay warm, and stay well until then.